Welcome back to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. And in today's episode, I'm going to be reacting to the latest ESPN NFL Power Rankings. And real quick before I get into it, if you do like videos like this where I react to power rankings, react to drafts, mock drafts, anything of that nature, let me know so I can do more. And if you do enjoy that, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now let's get into the video. So the Houston Texans at number 32, or I should have said at number 32, is the Houston Texans. Now, this one I agree with. I agree with the Texans being the worst team in the division. I think it's a toss-up between the Texans and the Lions, but I would go the Texans at 32. If Deshaun plays, maybe I'll put them higher, but if he doesn't and it's really looking like it's not, I'm not going to put them any higher because they really don't have much at all. They have Brandon Cooks, who's a decent receiver. I thought he was underrated last year, actually. But is he really, he's not really all that. They have three older running backs, three veteran running backs at that. David Johnson, Philip Lindsay, and Mark Ingram, which I don't get any of them. I don't get the Philip Lindsay signing, and I don't get the Mark Ingram signing. Why are you gonna continue to sign running backs like that? I just don't get it. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna get into the Hopkins thing, but that's it for Texans. And at number 31, the Detroit Lions, I understand that. Like I said, I think it's a toss-up between the Lions and the Texans. So, I can get down with that. Lions don't really have much either. They lost Kenny Galladay. They lost Marvin Jones. They do have TJ Hawkinson, and they do have Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff isn't really that good. The running backs are solid. DeAndre Swift. Then you go to defensive side of the ball, you have the young cornerback in Jeff Okudah, Julian Okwara. Outside of that, they don't really have much. I am actually a big fan of Tracy Walker, but outside of that, don't really have much. And all those players that I mentioned, outside of TJ Hawkinson, are not really big time players, if you ask me. Swift isn't a big time player yet. Okudah isn't a big time player yet. Tracy Walker is getting there, but Okwara isn't really a huge big time playmaker. So that's all the Lions really have. And you go to number 30. This is where things start to get choppy already. I do not think that the Jacksonville Jaguars belong at 30. I think they belong in the top 20. But at number 30, I think that's a little disrespectful because the Jaguars have a really good offense. Trevor Lawrence, they have very underrated receivers, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Collins. They have a lot of good receivers as well. Tight ends. They did just sign Tim Tebow. I don't really get that. Signing a 33-year-old player that hasn't played in almost a decade. I think this is more to bring tickets in with Tim Tebow. But then you go to defense side of the ball, they're okay. They have some good pass rushers in Josh Allen. Then you go, the cornerbacks are okay. Griffin, Henderson, Jenkins at safety. You have the Cisco at safety, who's a boomer bust in my opinion. They have a solid roster, but are they number 30? No, they are not. So let's move on. Number 29, Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals are a little low as well. The Bengals definitely have a better offense, and their defense is a little better. They did make some big-time signings, and they did make some signings at cornerback. I think the offense alone is going to be enough to compete with a lot of teams. The defense isn't really there yet, but at the end of the day, they're not number 29. They're much higher than 29. And then number 28, you have the New York Jets. Last year, easily one of the worst teams. This year, I think they're a little better than 28. I think the offense is going to look a bit better with Zach Wilson, with Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. Just name a few. Yeah, they did lose Darnold, but that is for a good cause in Zach Wilson. Go defensive side of the ball, still rough. Cornerbacks, they could use some work. Linebackers, get Mosley back. Defensive line, they have two young studs in Quinn Williams, and Carl Lawson isn't that young, but he's still a really solid player. Some really good players on that Jets team, but they're not ready to compete yet. But I don't think that they're number 28. Maybe you could put the number 28. So maybe this one isn't that terrible, but I don't think it's that great. This is an okay ranking. Philadelphia Eagles, I can agree with this one. Low, I kind of think that the Jets and Bengals and Jaguars are better than the Eagles. Um, I think the Eagles are going to be one of the worst teams. Jalen Hurts is taking over. They do have some really good weapons in Smith. Richard Rodgers is a really good tight end. You have the other tight end in Dallas Goedert. The offensive line is old and aging. Running backs and Miles Sanders. I like Miles Sanders, but is he the number one workload guy? I don't know. I don't think so. And then the defense side of the ball, not much there. The pass rush is probably their strength of this entire team. Cornerbacks, not a huge fan. Slay is okay. Slay is pretty good, but he did struggle last year a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think Slay is a really good cornerback. Outside of that, I don't really see much. If you ask me, I don't like their linebackers. Not a huge fan of their safeties. I just don't know how I feel about the Eagles. Broncos, I think the Broncos are criminally low. I think the Broncos have a pretty good roster. If you look at the Broncos defense, their defense is pretty good. They have Chris Harris. They have Patrick Surtain, who they drafted. They have a really good defensive line. They have, Bradley Chubb. I forgot who the other guy is, but they have some really good guys on that defensive line. I think it's Shelby Harris, if I'm not mistaken, but a really solid defensive line, really solid defense and all. Of course, Von Miller. You had one of the most underrated safeties in Justin Simmons. You have Kareem Jackson, Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby. They do have some solid players in place. Then you go to the offense, really good weapons and Hamler, Tim Patrick, not Surtain, Cortland Sutton. Some really solid guys, and Jerry Jeudy as well. Tight end, you have Noah Fant. Offensive line is getting better, and I love their running back group and Gordon and Williams. The quarterback is really the strength, and the Broncos are really a quarterback away. And I think a team with such a, well put together roster right now, I think they're much better than 26. 25, the Panthers, I can see the Panthers being one of those teams who it's either they're going to be really good or they're going to really struggle. If Sam Darnold's decent, if Sam Darnold, makes some big plays and he could be a good quarterback for the Panthers, I think this team has a chance to be a really good team. But can't say that, and you can't know until you see it on the field. And I think this is actually a good spot for the Panthers. Because until you see what Sam Darnold has, you can't really pump him up that high. I do like the picks of Tommy Tremble. I do like the Chuba Hubbard pick. Terrace Marshall is a really good receiver. I do really like the J.C. Horn pick. Of course, Christian McCaffrey. Deontay Brown was a guy they drafted for guard. They do have that defensive tackle they drafted a few years ago. I forgot his name, but he could be a really good defensive tackle. But yeah, and he is going to be a really good defensive tackle. So I really like this Panthers team where it's going. But I think they're still a year or two out from really competing with the big dog. So I think this is a good spot for them. Chicago Bears, I think this may be a little low for the Bears. But at the same time, you don't really know until you see Fields. I can see Allen Robinson staying now because of Justin Fields and a really good quarterback coming in. The offensive line is decent. They did draft Tevin Jenkins. Defense, of course, they always have a really good defense, but their defense is gonna take a bit of a step back. They have Khalil Mack, Roquan, just to name a few players. Eddie Jackson, Goldman, Akeem Hicks, some really solid players there, but the secondary, I think the secondary is going to take a step back with the loss of that Fuller. Kyle Fuller, whatever his name was, something like that, one of those brothers. But yeah, I think this defense is going to take a step back, but I think this offense is going to take a step forward. So it's kind of going to balance itself out. But having a better offense than a defense nowadays is kind of better, So I think the Bears, I think you could put the Bears a little higher than 24. The Giants, the Giants at 23, I think is really low. The Giants, they had a decent draft. They had a really good draft, if you ask me. One of the better drafts. It's kind of all on Daniel Jones. You put all the weapons around him. You put a decent offensive line around him. It's more so the inside of that offensive line that needs help. But Daniel Jones, He could be a really good quarterback. He has the potential, but will he? We don't know. The defense is going to be really freaking good. Um, really good offensive weapons and not Devontae Smith. Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay, John Ross, Kyle Rudolph, Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, just to name a few. Drafting Kadarius Toney in the first, I don't know about that, but we're not really here to talk about that too much. More so the power rankings. So, I think even if Daniel Jones doesn't play all that, I think you could bump these guys up a bit. I don't see right here. I don't see how they've gotten worse. I think they've only gotten better. So that's kind of weird right there. But I really think that the Giants are going to be a decent team. I don't think they're as bad as 23. Now the Raiders, I think the Raiders are a little high. I don't think the Raiders are better than the Giants. I don't think they're better than the Bears. I don't even think they're better than the Panthers. Maybe not even the Jags. Some of those teams down there. I think the Raiders are a bit too high. Yeah, I get they have Carr. Outside of Carr, I'm not really a huge fan. Carr is kind of everything but the problem. Yeah, he does struggle down, a stretch of the season, it seems, but, he doesn't really have much to help him. It probably gets really tiring for him to be, kind of carrying a team that doesn't really have much in the offense or, is always being pressured to score every drive because of the defense. There's not really much with the Raiders there. I don't really like the Raiders, so I think the Raiders are a bit high. So now we can move on to Atlanta Falcons. I like the Falcons. I think they have some really good weapons. They're at 21. They have really good weapons. The defense is okay. The addition of Arthur Smith is going to be big time. I like this Atlanta team. I like where they're going, but I don't know if they're ready to take that step. Yeah, Kyle Pitts, really. And especially if they trade Jones, yeah, they still have some really good weapons in Russell Gage and such, but especially if you get rid of Jones, that's another weapon taken away from Matt Ryan. I'm not a huge fan of that offensive line. Running backs, I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if I remember the running backs. I know they signed someone. I don't remember who, but the defense, Deion Jones, AJ Terrell, which I'm actually a huge fan of AJ Terrell. They have some really solid players here. Here and there, but I think 21 is actually kind of a fair spot for the Falcons. Maybe I'd put them a little higher just because of their offense and I think their defense isn't as bad as people think. Maybe the Falcons could be a surprise team in 21 just because of their offense. Because nowadays it's kind of better to have a better offense and defense, but having a better defense sure in the heck does help a lot. But I think 21 is a half decent spot for the Falcons. Number 20, the Washington football team. I think this is a bit low for the Washington football team, if you ask me. The big question mark is a quarterback, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. They did have Taylor Heineke, who really played really well in the playoffs last year against a really stout Tampa Bay team. But you got to bring in another guy to help him out a little bit. Is Fitz really that guy that's going to lead your team to a Super Bowl or to where you're aiming for? Because this Washington football team is ready to win. This defense is top notch. The defensive line is really scary. I don't care which offensive line you are. That's going to be an extremely tough defensive line to really corral and really get under control. The cornerbacks are decent, are okay. Safeties are okay. The linebackers have gotten better. Jamin Davis. But then if you go back to the offense, I really like the offense and I really like what they have around their quarterbacks. Whoever the quarterback's going to be, I think the offensive line is decent. It's okay. Tight ends, Logan Thomas, I really like him. Wide receivers, you have Terry McLaurin, you have Diami Brown, which I think Diami Brown was one of the best picks in the draft. I love Diami Brown. He's a really good big jump ball guy. He's fast. And then you have the other guy on Terry McLaurin, which some people call Terry McLaren or Terry Scary. Pretty cool nicknames. But yeah, I think the Washington football team should be higher than 20. So, I think this is a little low for the Washington football team. The Patriots at 19, I think this is a little low for the Patriots as well. I think the Patriots have a really good roster. They have a good defense. They have a good offense. It's just kind of how Cam Newton and Mac Jones pans out. Who's going to start week one? Mac Jones, Cam Newton. No one really knows yet, but, I'm not crazy about these ESPN power rankings so far, if you cannot tell. I think they're very poor, and I think they're, I just don't think they're correct. I mean, you can have your opinion, yeah, of course, but I don't think, I'm not a fan of it myself. Some of you maybe, but I'm not. But yeah, I think the Patriots are a good roster. Really good offensive line. They have a really underrated running back in the Damian, whatever his name is. He's really underrated. He was actually a really good running back last year. Um, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, already talked about them. Wide receivers, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, decent. I still think they need that true number one. Maybe they're in the mix for Julio Jones. Tight ends are really good, of course. They spent a lot of money on those. Hunter Henry and John Smith, two really big playmaker tight ends. And then you go to defense. They have really good defense. I really like their secondary. I think their safeties are okay. They did sign Jalen Mills as well. Their linebackers, they're gonna have Dante Hightower back. They're gonna have their guy in who is Kyle Van Noy, who's coming back from the Dolphins. And their defensive line is okay, and not incredibly scary, but their defensive line will get the job done. But yeah, I still think this is a little low for the Patriots. I think they have a better roster, definitely a better roster than last year. I think they're a bit better than 19, maybe. The Saints, I think the Saints are actually in a good spot here. They do have a decent roster, and they do have a really good quarterback situation, but not in. You'd rather have, two or three really talented quarterbacks go at it rather than have one guy and, just have to depend on that guy in that season. Like you go back to the Colts a few years ago with Jacoby Brissett, you don't really want that. But they have two or three really talented guys that can fight for, being that number one spot. The offensive line is really good. Running back is, amazing in Alvin Kamara. They have Traquan Smith, who's okay, as you see here. Michael Thomas, good receiver. They do have that Keith Wood, I believe. I like him. I think he's a bit underrated. I'm not sure if he's still with them or not. He may not be, but yeah, I think the Saints are actually in a pretty good spot here. Their defense is okay. Nothing crazy. I wasn't crazy about a lot of their picks, if you ask me. I wasn't crazy about the draft. I think they reached for a guy in Ian Book. The linebacker, the edge rusher that they drafted, I don't remember who. I think they reached for him. I don't remember who it is, but I know it was a reach. I remember it was a bit high for him. But yeah, I actually agree with this. I think the Saints are in a decent spot. The Chargers at 17, I think this is a reasonable spot for the Chargers. No, maybe not. I think the Chargers should be higher. Yeah, the Chargers are a really good team. Really good offense with Justin Herbert leading the way. The signing of Corey Linsley. I think the guards are kind of maybe the weaknesses, but tackle's really good, and Rashawn Slater, Brian Bulaga, Titans and Jared Cook and McQuitty, whatever his name is. I really like where this team is heading. The defense is really good. Not really good, but getting there. I think the Chargers should be a little higher than this. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys, who I think this is a fair spot for them. I think their offense alone is going to be enough to compete with the NFL and whoever they play. I think their defense is a little better than last year. With Keanu Neal, with DeMonte Casey, some solid guys they brought in. They have Trayvon Diggs from last year they drafted. They did draft a few linebackers as well. I think this Cowboys team can be a really good team next year, and just because of the offense alone, the defense with Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith, Jabril Cox is one of the guys. I forgot the linebacker that they drafted, but I think the Cowboys can be a decent team next year because of the offense alone. The offense alone is going to be enough to compete with the rest of the NFL and with the NFC East. I think this is a good spot for them. Maybe a little higher just because of their offense. Pittsburgh Steelers at 15. I guess this is okay. I'm not crazy about it. Not crazy about their offense. I wasn't too stoked about their draft. I wasn't too excited about it. Very interesting. Why would you draft a running back when there's a guy like Tevin Jenkins maybe there, and there's a guy like Creed Humphrey that was even there. You could have taken anyone else there. Really help that old line a bit, and instead you go with a running back that likes to dance around the backfield. The offensive line is not that great. Cornerback, he's He took a step back towards the end of the season last season, but he did have a solid season in all. The receivers are really good. I really like the receiving core. Pat Fryermuth, Eric Ebron, two solid tight ends there. You go to defense side of the ball, of course. Pittsburgh didn't good in defense. I think they're going to take a step back. They did lose a few defensive players, and Bud Dupree. I'm not a huge fan of Terrell Edmonds. I do like Minka though. I do like Joe Hayden. He's decent. But TJ Watt is amazing, as we know. They do have that guy in the middle. I forgot his Cameron Hayward. He's a really good middle guy. But I think this defense is going to take a little step back, and I actually think this is a little high for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they can move down a spot or two. I think the Chargers are better than them. I think the Cowboys will be better than them. Maybe New England. Maybe I don't know about the Giants, but I think you put the Giants up here a little bit in 16, 17 range, maybe 15. But yeah, I think the Steelers are a little high. I don't think the Steelers are going to be that good next year. Miami Dolphins at 14. I like the spot for the Dolphins. Really good defense, a lot of really good offensive weapons for Tua. It's just if Tua is gonna pull it together and learn and take that leap forward next year. Will he? It's uncertain right now, but if he does, his team is going to be much higher than 14. His team could be a top 10 team, in my opinion. Especially if Tua, shows out and takes any kind of leap. But the defense, of course, one of the most complete. This is the most complete defense in the league. One of the most complete. Watch out for this defense with the addition of Jalen Phillips, Christian Wilkins. They have some Emmanuel Agba. I would like an upgrade at the linebacker position a little bit, but nonetheless, it's a solid group, a group that gets it done. One of the best secondaries in the NFL, if not the best. So I think this is a decent spot for the Dolphins until we see what Tua has. Of course, I'm acquiring Liam Eichenberg, of course, Hunter Long, the tight end, power running back, and I don't know much about him. They did sign Jacoby to back up Tua, Jalen Waddle, some really good weapons for Tua for him to make a step up. So hopefully he does, and if he does, it will be higher. The Vikings, I think this is a bit high for the Vikings. Wow. Don't get me wrong. I think the Vikings are talented. The Vikings, they did draft Christian Darrisaw. I think Kirk Cousins is better than what people may think. Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league. Adam Thielen, really good receiver. Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers. One of the best rookie receivers of last year. And then Wyatt Davis, of course. I forgot they drafted him as well. Ooh, maybe this is a half decent spot for the Vikings. But if you go to defense, the defense is where it takes you back. I'm not crazy about the defense, but like I said earlier, the offense, you'd rather have a better offense than defense. So, I still think this is a little high. I don't think they're better than the Dolphins. I don't know if I'd say they're better than the Chargers. Probably not the Patriots. Football team and Giants, I'd say, are better. Yeah, I don't know about the Vikings at 13. I think they're going to be a really competitive team with that offense, but that defense is really bad. I don't think this offense is going to be that consistent. Just because of Kirk. I think Kirk is a really good quarterback, and he is, but he does have times where he struggles. And will he be able to continue to keep that team on their back? I guess we'll see. Colts at 12. I think this is a decent spot for the Colts. They did make a lot of additions. The pass rush is a lot better. They did bring back a guy in Xavier Rhodes. This is a really good team all around. I think they have a really good team. They really addressed some big holes. They signed a guy in Eric Fisher. They have a guy in Kwity Paye, Deo. They did lose Justin Houston and Danico, but you got some youth in Kwity and Deo. The safeties and Blackman and Willis, two really solid safeties. The linebacker group is pretty good, but if one of those guys go down, there may be a problem there. Cornerbacks are pretty good. Xavier Rhodes is pretty good. Xavier Rhodes is a stud. Kenny Moore, one of the better slot cornerbacks in the league. Rocky Sin is, he's a little bit inconsistent. He's kind of the weak point of that defense, if you ask me, the weak point of that, cornerback group. But then you go to the interior of the defensive line, Buckner, Big Grove, and then, some really solid players. And the offense, the offensive line, one of the better lines in the league. Some young receivers are, their young receivers are pretty good. Tight ends, I like their tight ends. Running backs are a really good running back group. Um, it's all on Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz is a good quarterback and he's decent, he doesn't have to be MVP quarterback for them, really shoot up even further from 12. But it all depends on Wentz. If Wentz is bad, he's bad, and the Colts probably going to be, not terribly bad because they do have a good roster. But if he's good, they're going to be really good. So I think 12 is a fair spot until we see what Wentz will do. Then at 11, you have the Arizona Cardinals, which, I think this is a good spot for the Cardinals. They have really good offense. They have some solid pieces on defense. They drafted, players on defense. I'm not as extremely high on them as everyone else is. I think there are teams that are well more put together. Like maybe the Colts are well more put together. Maybe the Dolphins. But, at the same time, you got to realize that, they have a really good offense, and their defense is better. So, maybe not the Dolphins. I don't know. It depends on how they perform and how we see they gel on the field. They look really good on paper. We have to see how they do on the field first. And if they perform well on the field, I'm down. But, on paper, they look really good. And I think 11 is a fair spot for the Cardinals. Number 10, the Tennessee Titans. I like the Titans. The Titans are a really good team. They do have some more holes than they have had in the past few years. Some holes on the offensive line, some holes on the defense. They do definitely have some holes, but Derrick Henry is going to lead the way. Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, this sign guy, and Josh Reynolds. They are going to get the guy in Taylor Lewan back. And their defense is okay. Drafting Caleb Farley was kind of a steal. If he does stay healthy, he's going to be a really good player. Then you have Jack Rabbit on the other side. Malcolm Jenkins, their safeties and Kevin Byard is good. I don't think Kenny Vaccaro is still with them, but I think this is a team that's going to be decent, and I think they're going to be a decent team. But they do have a void at tight end now, so guess we'll see where that goes. So I think 10, maybe is a decent spot. Maybe I lower them a little bit. Number 9, the San Francisco 49ers. I think this is a good spot for them. Actually, you know what? I would actually bump them down a bit because don't get me wrong, Niners are a really young, talented team. They're going to be healthy with Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, really good offensive line, really good running back. So depends on the quarterback position. Is Jimmy G going to start week 1 or is Trey Lance going to start week 1? I don't think either one is going to be significantly better week 1, but obviously I think Trey Lance has more of an upside and maybe better in the future. But right now, I'm not. I think 9 is too high. I may lower them 3 or 4 spots. I think 13 would actually be a really good spot for them. I think their defense is going to take a step back a bit. Good defensive line. Really good defensive line, really good linebackers. They do have some playmakers, but I think this defense is going to take a bit of a step back again. So I think 9 is a little high, but nonetheless, really good team. Number 8, Seattle Seahawks. I think this is a bit high for the Seahawks. I think this is a kind of, not way too high, but outside of, they're going to be really good. They do have, Russell Wilson. They do have DK Metcalf. They do have, who else? Tyler Lockett is really underrated. Chris Carson is good. Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner. This team's going to be good. But as of right now, I don't think the Seahawks are number 8 talent-wise. I would move the Seahawks down. I don't like their defense. Their offensive line I don't like. Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life a lot. Chris Carson's is not going to have much room to run. The defense doesn't scare you that much out of maybe Adams and Wagner. So, this Seahawks team is a bit high in my opinion. Now the Browns, I really like the Browns this year. They have a lot of big playmakers. Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Jarvis, Higgins. Their offensive line is one of the best in the league. Tight ends are very underrated. And Austin Hooper and Njoku. Baker Mayfield is an up-and-coming star. He's been really freaking good. The running back group is one of the best in the NFL. The offense is alone and is enough to compete. The defense, is really good as well. It has really improved. You have Garrett. I think they should bring Sheldon Richardson back. it's kind of a position they still need on the inside a little bit. But a guy like Marvin Wilson, who they got on an undrafted free agent level, I really like him. JLK was a steal. The cornerbacks are a bit better. I drafted a guy in Greg Newsome. They have a guy in Denzel Ward already, who's a stud. He's a really good cornerback in the league. I forgot I mentioned Clowney. Anthony Walker's new guy they have. Taki. Safeties. Oh, they do have Troy Hill too, I believe. So I think this Browns team is a really good team. I think this Browns team is going to be better than 7. I think they are better than 7. I think number 7 is a bit low for them. I think the Browns are more talented than 7. The Baltimore Ravens at 6. I think it's a solid spot, but I would put the Browns ahead of the Ravens just because I think the Browns are more well-rounded team right now. The Ravens don't have as good as a pass rush as they used to. I think I'd just rather Baltimore. I think I'd rather the Browns over Baltimore. I think the Browns are a much more well put together team right now. Yeah, the Ravens do have a really talented roster. They do have a really talented team, but I think the Browns are more talented. And if you ask me, I'd put the Browns at 6, or I'd probably put them at 5 or 4 even. That's how much I like the Browns. They're a really good team. And then the Ravens, yeah, you have Lamar, you have those young receivers you drafted to help them. You have Dobbins, Edwards. The offensive line is not as good as it used to be. Mark Andrews, who was on and off. Defense, like I said, they may take a little step back on pass rush wise. Nonetheless, the linebackers aren't the greatest. They do have Patrick Queen. Their cornerbacks are really good, one of the best in the league. Humphrey, Smith, Peters, Young, and their safeties. They could use some work at their safeties, their free safety. But they did sign an undrafted guy from TCU that I really like that I think is going to make the roster, really start. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this Baltimore team is a really talented team. But 6, I think, is a bit high. Or no, it's not a bit high. I would just put the Browns or the Ravens. Green Bay Packers, number 5. I think this is a good spot for the Packers. A really good team. Aaron Rodgers coming in. Devontae Adams, Lazard. Who's the other guy? That Scantling. He's a good receiver, good deep threat. But outside of Devontae Adams, they're inconsistent. And Aaron Rodgers. If he doesn't play with Green Bay, I may drop them 5 spots, 5, 6, 7 spots. I still think this is a talented roster. But obviously with Rodgers, they're much, much better. The running back and Aaron Jones is good, one of the better offensive lines in the league. Wide receivers, they're inconsistent, not really, what you want outside Devontae Adams. Robert Tonyan is a good tight end. A good offense with Rodgers or not. I think they could be a good offense with Love. I don't think they'd be as bad as people may think. I dropped them down maybe 10, maybe 10 to 14. I think would be a solid ranking for them if Rodgers does end up leaving. But I think 5 is a good spot with Rodgers. Their defense is good. They drafted the guy in Eric Stokes to go alongside the other side of Jair Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I think this team is set to be a really good team. And I think 5 is a solid spot for them. 4, the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams, I think they're a really good team. As we all know, they traded for Matthew Stafford. They are a really good team. Really excited to see them get in the field. I think 4 is a good spot for them. 4, you have, Los Angeles Rams, you have Stafford, the really good receiver room now, really dynamic receiver room. Tight end is good. Tyler Higbee is underrated. I'm not a fan of the offensive line. They're old and aging, injury prone a little bit, but I think the Rams at 4. I think it's a solid spot. Of course, the defense is really talented, really good. Really well balanced team, really well put together roster. So I think 4 is a really good spot for them. At 3 of the Buffalo Bills, I like the Bills here. Josh Allen. I may even put the Browns here and then bump the Bills down 1, bump the Rams down 1, and the Packers down 1. And I know I sound crazy, but the Browns are going to be really freaking good. And people are, I get people are putting them really high. as of 6, 7, like we see. But I think you could put them at 3. I think you legitimately could. But the Browns are really good, or the Bills are really good as well, and they're going to be one of the best teams. Josh Allen, easily, one of the most talented teams in the league. Defense is, of course, is solid. Offensive line is solid. Receivers are better. Tight end is underrated in Dawson Knox. The running back group, I think, could get a little better, but at the end of the day, Josh Allen is a really good quarterback, and he's really improved a lot. So I think this is a good spot for the Bills. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like the Buccaneers, as of course everyone does. They brought, except for some people, of course, some people are going to disagree, but I think the Bucs are one of the best teams in the NFL. Obviously, they did just win the Super Bowl last year. Tom Brady, never count him out. They have really good receivers, really good running backs, one of the best offensive lines, defense, one of the better pass rushers in the league, really good corners, really good secondary, linebackers are really good. A really good team with a lot of star-studded talent all over it. Brought back all 22 starters from last season, and they added on to it. So, a really good freaking team in Tampa Bay and Kansas City, number 1. Not surprised, if you ask me, I'm going to switch Tampa Bay and Kansas City. I think Tampa Bay. No. I'm keeping more of that because Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, and that offense is enough to be number 1. And the defense did improve, and the offensive line did improve. Their 2 biggest weaknesses, they did improve both of them. I would like if they bring back Rashad Breeland, but nonetheless, solid young cornerback group with a lot of potential. Just gotta wait and see. You have Chris Jones, Frank Clark. They don't have Drew Tranquil anymore. Tyrann Mathieu, Swarrington. They have some really solid players. And I think this Chiefs team is number 1. I think they're number 1. And I think Tampa Bay is really good number 2. So that's my reaction to the ESPN power rankings. There are some spots where I think they got it right. I think they nailed it. But there are a lot more spots where I think they really, could have done a little better. Nonetheless, an okay power ranking. I'm not crazy about it. I don't like it, but I see some spots. Let's skim back through it. Texans and Lions could stay down here. Jags are too low. Cincinnati is too low. I think the Jets are good where they're at. Eagles, I think this is an okay spot. I think they will be worse in 27, but at the end of the day, I think this is a good spot. Broncos, I think the Broncos are way too low. Panthers are in a good spot until we see what Darnold's going to do. Bears are a little low. Giants are way low. Raiders are too high. Falcons are a good spot, maybe a little low because of their offense. Football team is too low. Patriots are too low. Saints a good spot. Chargers are too low. Cowboys in a good spot. Steelers maybe a little high, but I think it's an okay spot. I think they're going to be a middle impact team. Dolphins a little low, but it also depends on Tua, so I think that's a good spot. Vikings are too high. Colts I think are in a good spot. Cardinals good spot. Tennessee a little high. San Fran a little high. Seattle a bit too high. Browns a bit too low. Ravens, I think you switch with the Browns. A good spot though. Green Bay good spot. The rest is pretty good. I could get with the rest. Maybe you switch Bills and the Browns, or or just put the Browns at 3 and then bump everyone down a bit. But yeah, nonetheless, really excited for the season. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy this video? Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know your thoughts. That's my thoughts on and reacting to the ESPN power rankings. So that's gonna be it for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more of these videos. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.